Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know that old saying, communication is key? Well, I guess it's a piece of wisdom that the Biden White House never really received, or I guess just doesn't take seriously. The Biden White House. The bad news bears diversity hire disaster, that is, the Biden cabinet, continues to deliver exactly what they always seem to deliver, a bunch of incoherent, no-meaning nonsense. I have never met such a group of individuals who can say so much yet say so little. They speak and speak, they supposedly answer questions, they deliver speeches, but they never seem to really be saying anything. I can't remember the last time I watched a White House event walking away with anything of actual intellectual value. I always walk away dumber and less informed than when I started, and so let's delve into that phenomenon. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, remember that Politico article from a couple months ago? Anonymous White House press reporters venting their frustration to Politico relating to their dealings and interactions with Karine Jean-Pierre, essentially claiming that with the Biden White House, press secretary briefings have become a colossal waste of time because Karine Jean-Pierre does not answer questions. She talks in circles and says literally nothing for 30 minutes and then everyone walks away. It's become basically just a formality, an act. It's theater. Well, here's a perfect example of exactly that. Karine Jean-Pierre gets into fiery confrontation with New York Times reporter. A New York Times reporter got into a testy confrontation with White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre aboard Air Force One over the detention of a Wall Street Journal reporter in Russia. It happened after President Joe Biden responded to a reporter's question about detained Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich. Here's that interaction.
Are you going to expel Russian diplomats or journalists? That's not the plan right now. President Biden.
Aboard Air Force One, Karine Jean-Pierre spoke to reporters as they headed to Mississippi to assess the storm damage when her confrontation with New York Times reporter Michael Shear happened, a White House transcript showed. Karine Jean-Pierre says, "Michael, I understand the question and I actually answered it. Every American that is detained, it is indeed a priority. This is something the president has said from the beginning of this administration." Michael Shear then responds, "How did that answer my question?" Karine Jean-Pierre then says, "Because I just told you, it's a priority. This is a priority." Michael Shear then continues, "The question was, how long will it take? And is the president going to tell the Secretary of State to accelerate it?" Karine Jean-Pierre then responds, "Michael, I am telling you that there is a process. There are privacy concerns." Michael Shear then says, "No, you're saying things that aren't the answer to the question. But I am asking you, will you answer the question?" Karine Jean-Pierre then says, "You may not like the answer to the question." She always freaking does this. Michael Shear says, "It isn't an answer," then laughs. Karine Jean-Pierre responds, "Okay, we can go back and forth. This is actually textbook Karine Jean-Pierre. This is all she ever does. I've answered the question." "No, you haven't. Listen, just because you don't like my answer doesn't mean I'm not answering it." Holy freaking moly. She always says, "We can go back and forth." She then always says, "But you also have colleagues who want to ask me questions that she probably won't even freaking answer." Journalist Steve Holland then chimes in, "Karine, was the president, was he briefed?" She then responds, "So I feel like I'm answering the question. Steve, you go." Karine Jean-Pierre is a national embarrassment. She's a complete disgrace. There's nobody less honest. She just talks in circles endlessly and she says nothing. Nobody gets any value out of White House press briefings. During the Trump administration, the press briefings were some of the most interesting content of the week, almost every single week. And now it's nothing. There's no value. There's nothing there. And it's largely thanks to Karine Jean-Pierre. I mean, Jen Psaki started the model. Karine Jean-Pierre took it to a whole new level. Just empty, vague, political nothing statements. Michael Shear asking if there's a timeline, how long will it take? And she just says, "Well, Michael, it's a priority. You didn't answer my question." "Well, I feel like I did." Here we go again, Democrats and their feelings. You didn't answer the question, but you feel like you did. Don't challenge her subjective reality. Don't challenge her feelings. Because feelings are what matter above facts, of course. It's a complete joke. The reality is, they don't want to answer the question because they don't have a timeline. And they don't want to say that. They can't give a concrete timeline because probably the reality is that the Russians aren't even returning their phone calls. Just like John Kirby admitted, the Chinese are refusing to take Biden's phone calls, as well as the North Koreans, despite the White House's effort to open lines of communications. The reality is, It's embarrassing. This White House is facing total disrespect across the world stage. And Karine Jean-Pierre doesn't want to fortify that truth. And so they'd rather answer with "it's a priority" than the truth. And the truth is that they've made no progress. And they have no idea what their strategy is, let alone a timeline. Chances are the way this thing's gonna play out is similar to how it played out with Brittany Griner. The US is gonna have to give up a significant Russian asset to free this Western allied journalist. Most likely, it's gonna end with the Biden administration having to give up some key point of leverage, or having to give up a notorious arms dealer or KGB spy, some notorious Russian gangster or terrorist, to secure this journalist's freedom. How I miss the good old days when Trump projected strength on the world stage. People knew not to mess with him. He had America posturing its position of power. He used every key point of leverage that he could, and you know what? He got things done, especially when it came to American assets or American citizens being taken hostage or being put in prison abroad. But anyways, not to delve too deep into that, let's continue on with the White House diversity hires and their absolute communications fails. That's Karine Jean-Pierre, her particular brand of communication failure. Let's get into Kamala Harris and her very specific brand of communication fail, embarrassing the world abroad. Karine Jean-Pierre is the most notable American diplomat. I know it's hard to say that with a straight face, but it's true. She seems to be the American liaison that's sent across the world, well, mostly in developing countries. And holy freaking moly, is she an utter disaster. She's currently on a trip to Africa, and she's doing her whole weird, condescending, talking down to the crowd strategy. Here she is explaining to business leaders in Africa how smartphones and apps work and how they can help society move forward.
And increasing the use and development of apps. On that last point, I'd ask you to just imagine your own smartphone and the apps that it contains, and what those apps then give you in terms of access to a myriad of information and systems that help you go about your daily life.
Oh my lord, I am cringing beyond belief. My face hurts. There's also this moment, which Memology clipped up and edited.
It is probably the main focus of my trip to the continent, including culminating the trip here in Lusaka in Zambia, which is to work with leaders such as the president here as a partner to work together. So on your first point, I'll reiterate my the point I made earlier. We are continuing to reiterate our call for all bilateral official creditors to provide meaningful debt reduction to Zambia.
Be persecuted by the pompous fedora, balanced by the equilibrium fortified.
As incoherent as ever, as embarrassing as ever, everything speech-wise that comes out of this administration tends to be honestly just a waste of breath. If it's not Joe Biden's incoherent rambling, Karine Jean-Pierre's talking in circles, ducking and dodging and refusing to answer a freaking question, or Kamala Harris's insufferable talking down as if the people she's addressing are ignorant or stupid or 5 years old. I mean, the audacity to go to Africa and to explain these concepts in overly simplistic, next level layman terminology. It's all just so ridiculous. They've become a global laughingstock, and with good reason. Nobody takes these people seriously because, of course, they are fundamentally just unserious people who aren't deserving of that privilege to be taken seriously. That's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. You know that we'd love to have you here at the Liberal Hive Mind. Like usual, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.